I think this is cooking show number 10. We started with one that we were going to do, and now we're at 10.
Very cool.
So my guest tonight is Kevin Wilmott, and some of you know him or know about him. He teaches film at KU and makes films, and we've known each other for 46 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
You were just like 17 or 18, and
Yeah.
I was about 26.
Yeah.
And in Junction City. Kevin grew up there in Junction City and went to St. X High School, and I was teaching there, and that's how we met, and the friendship has lasted wonderfully all these years. We've never really lost contact with each other.
No, it's been great.
And spent many hours talking about film and literature
Yes.
and
Yes.
politics and religion and
And you've cooked me many meals.
yeah, that's true. Yeah. So it all has worked.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
So, of course, Kevin's been with KU for how many years?
Oh, 20-something.
20-some years, yeah.
Yeah.
And they offered him a really good deal. I hope I'm not spoiling this, but basically they said, we don't really want you to teach a full schedule. We want you to make films and make KU famous. And so that's what you did. And how many films have you made?
Oh, I think feature films, I think I've made about 8 feature films now. Yeah, and a lot of documentaries too.
Right, yeah.
And then I've written a lot of movies for other people, so.
Yeah, because the one thing you really teach is writing, isn't it?
Yeah, I teach screenwriting, yes. Yeah, that's the main thing. I teach history classes too.
Yeah.
But that's the big thing is screenwriting.
Kevin was destined to work for, what was it? Alco.
Alco, yes, Alco Discount Center.
For his life, and I said that just ain't happening.
Yes, yeah. Father Frank put in our neighborhood, as you remember, college was just not much of a concept.
Right. Yeah.
And guys, you played sports, and the only guys who went to college were the guys who played sports.
Right. Yeah.
They'd go to the community colleges typically. And. But no one went to school to go to school.
You started that trend.
Yeah, that was a whole new concept in our neighborhood.
Yeah.
So yeah, Father Frank really, encouraged me to go to school and to go to college. And Marymount was, right down the road in Salina, Kansas,
And Kevin wanted to be an actor and a filmmaker, and so Marymount had a fabulous speech and drama department.
Yes, indeed.
So Kevin got in there, spent his 4 years there. In the drama department, everybody had to do a senior project, and so you wrote 9th Street, which was about 9th Street in Junction City, and then produced it, and that was. Your project, you had to produce a play, and it showed like one weekend. But it was so popular that how many weekends did it show?
It carried over, I think, 2 or 3 more weekends. Yeah.
Because word of mouth spread around Salina, and people wanted to see it.
Yeah. People came from Junction and all over the area.
Yeah. A few years back, Kevin won an Academy Award for helping write the screenplay for Black Klansman, and he brought it tonight.
What's that thing in the movies? I just happen to have it right here.
Right, yeah.
I just happen to have it right here.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring it because, Father Frank had so much to do with me winning this award. Those days when we hung out and went to the movies, we mainly went to movies in Manhattan.
Yeah, we did.
We had to drive over here to Manhattan to the movies, and we'd watch the movie, and then we'd always talk about the movie afterwards. And we didn't go see dumb movies. We went to the good movies.
Yeah.
Which, is kind of a big deal because I think people, I tell my students, don't go to disposable movies. Go to movies that matter, Right. And so all of that, I think, led to this. And so you're a big part of that award. So. Okay. I wanted everybody to know that.
Well, thank you. I'll keep it.
I rent it out on Friday, so you can just, it's a couple hours a day,
Yeah. Tonight we're going to make Irish stew because Kevin is so Irish.
Yes, indeed.
And
Actually, I'm Scottish.
are you?
I just had my DNA thing done.
Oh, yeah?
With the ancestry, and I found out that I was like about 20% Scottish.
No kidding.
Yeah.
And did I tell you that I've got about 5% Northern African?
See, that's the whole thing about race. It's like we're all the same folks in the end.
Right. Where does prejudice come from? Because we're all in the same pot.
Exactly. It's like, what's the old Jesse Jackson line? We came over from the same ships. We're in the same boat now.
That's right. Yeah. It's probably been 8 or 9 years ago. Father Carey and I were in Ireland together, and we had lunch in this pub in this tiny little town. And it was the best Irish stew I think I've ever had.
Wow.
And so I begged the guy for the recipe and he wouldn't give it to me.
Oh, wow.
So I came home and I started experimenting around. I went online, got recipes for Irish stew and everything like that, played with this and that. I've been working on this since then.
Wow.
And so I finally got it down to where I don't know that it's as good as his, but it's close.
Okay, very good.
So that's what we're going to make. But then, one of my favorite cuisines is Italian, so we're going to give an Italian twist to this because we're going to put this stew over polenta. And I think the Irish would just cringe at the thought, but there it is. So we're going to get the stew started, and then we're going to make the polenta. And of course, this stew takes hours and hours to cook. So we're going to eat some that I pre-made, and we'll put that over the polenta and give it a try.
Very cool.
And then our dessert is just going to be something that we have to make right as we eat it, and it's to be served warm. And so we'll have fun making the desserts and eating it right away.
Yes, indeed.
So in this pot I have some bacon. Anything good starts out with bacon.
That's what my dog says.
Right, yeah. And then I'm going to get the stew meat, and this is, of course, you can't make Irish stew without lamb, although you can, because not everybody can get lamb, and it works with beef too, but lamb is just a little better. And so we're going to cook this, render this bacon, and then we're going to throw a little garlic in, and then the stew meat, and we have a handful of mint, and then a handful of parsley. So we'll be putting these things in one at a time. So I'll get this bacon started. So I just have this cut into pretty fine pieces, and we're going to render this out and then leave it all in there. We're not going to take the bacon bits out. That's part of the recipe. So once that's rendered down, then we'll add to it. And I'm going to slow that down because it just works better on a lower temperature. Those Junction City days were kind of heady days. There's another thing that I just thought of. We did some social justice work back in those days too.
Yes, indeed.
So after Kevin graduated from Marymount, I got sent over to K-State to do a year of language study in preparation for going to Rome to study. And so I hired Kevin to teach religion in my place at St. X. They never had a religion teacher like you. And so what...
Yeah, I'm laughing over here.
Yeah. So what Kevin would do is he was into these late night news shows, commentary, that sort of thing, and he would videotape from the TV, take it into class the next day, and discuss it. Am I right about that?
That's right. This is right when VHS came out, when VCRs just were started.
The cutting edge,
Yes.
So at first I was hearing from the parents, this isn't religion, we got to stop this. And I don't know, a month or two later, they're saying, we want to keep this guy. Because it was thrilling for them to have their children come home talking about religion.
Right.
That never happened before.
Yeah.
It was just one of those courses that they begrudgingly had to take.
Of course.
And they were eating it up.
Yeah. You know, we would talk about a social issue, and that's kind of how I learned the social teachings of the church, was through just our discussions.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you kind of knew in general the social teaching, but you didn't really know until you talk about it.
Exactly.
You know, and when you talk about it, then you bring in things that were actually happening at the time.
Yeah.
And so then makes it real.
Yeah. Yeah, it really did. Kevin and I brought it up to the city that in the 130-year history of the fire department, no minority had ever been hired, despite the fact that the city was 38% minority.
Right.
And we naively thought that they would go, oh, well, let's look into that.
Oh, I think that's something we just overlooked.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I honestly thought that it would go something like that, you know, and it didn't.
No. And that's one of the things that I really loved about, you know, learning from Father Frank and going to Marymount, and, you know, really learning about film that way was making all those connections.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, for me, it wasn't, you know, it wasn't just about film, it was also about, you know, society.
So we're throwing the garlic in, and of course we don't want that to burn. It's on low enough that it can cook a minute or so, and you just really want that to flour and smell up the kitchen.
That really smells great.
Yeah, between the bacon and the garlic.
That really smells good.
Yeah.
I was telling Father Frank that, you know, when he first came to Junction City, and he was stationed in Junction City, Monsignor Keoghan, they lived at the rectory together, and every time you went over there, you could always smell something cooking. And Monsignor did the cooking?
He did all the cooking, yeah. Now we're going to throw in the meat. And we'll brown this a little bit, and it will stick to the pan, but we'll scrape those bits up later and they'll be adding flavor. You know, with stew, you're building flavor. And so as you layer different things in, these are rather large pieces, and I sometimes cut them into smaller bits, but this cooks for so long, and that shrinks down, and they're really not too large. They become so tender, and they just melt in your mouth. Okay, we're ready for the next step, and we are going to put enough beef broth in there to cover it by about an inch. And you can do chicken broth too, but I think beef just makes it richer.
Did Irish stew, was that a different recipe when they got here, or was it the same one from the homeland, or?
Well, I think, you know, a lot of cuisine from various cultures comes from poor people.
Right, yeah.
And so you couldn't get the good cuts of meat, so you had to find ways of spicing it up so that it tasted good. And so, you know, a lot of the French famous sauces and everything, they were designed to cover up bad pieces of meat.
Wow.
You know, well, look at soul food in the States.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. Yeah, it's all the stuff that's thrown away.
Yeah, chitlins and
Pig feet.
Yeah, all that stuff that nobody else wanted, and so and then you find ways to make it palatable. So we have our chopped herbs here. Just going to dump them in wholesale. And then we have some dried thyme. And you can use fresh, but this time I'm using dried, and a bay leaf. Get that stirred together a bit. This is crushed red tomatoes, and I'm just going to put about half of the can in there. But you can use diced tomatoes, and you can also use whole tomatoes and sort of break them up with a spoon. So then I'm going to add a teaspoon of salt. And we'll adjust. We may add more salt later, but we'll adjust. And I'm going to put some black fresh ground pepper in there too.
Kind of surprises me about the tomato. Is that typical kind of Irish?
No, that is not traditional.
Yeah. I mean, the Irish didn't cook with a lot of tomatoes, did they?
No. Well, Italians do.
Italians do.
But actually, tomatoes are Western Hemisphere.
Uh-huh.
The Italians never heard of tomatoes until a couple centuries ago.
Really?
Yeah. We're going to bring that up to a boil. And then we're going to lower the heat and simmer it, and that's going to simmer for an hour and a half. And then we'll cut up carrots, potatoes, celery, those three, and put those in and cook it for another hour, and they'll get nice and soft. And then right at the end, we make a slurry with flour and water and pour that in there and bring it up to a boil and thicken it.
Okay.
So it has a kind of a stew-like consistency, and that's Irish stew. So one of the ingredients I forgot was the wine, and it takes about a cup of wine. This is more or less that. And
about how long does it take to make it the whole recipe, Phil?
Well, it takes about a half-hour prep, and then 2.5 hours of cooking. So about 3 hours. Polenta is cornmeal, and basically it's an Italian version of grits.
Okay.
And you make it with the same stuff.
Mm-hmm. Cornmeal.
Cornmeal, yeah. Mm-hmm. And but the Italians flavor it up differently than the Southerners in the U.S. Mm-hmm. But you never just have grits that isn't flavored.
Right. Right. Usually got something with cheese.
Yeah, a lot of cheese and stuff like that.
Right.
And so this is more of an Italian way of doing grits. But basically, I've got 2 cups of chicken broth. Just pour that in there, mm-hmm. and get a fire under it. Medium high. And then I'm going to start adding things. First thing I'm going to add is 1 clove of garlic chopped. And we're just going to let that come up to a boil.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the grits.
That's the cornmeal there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to grab a whisk, because when we put this into that hot liquid, we want to whisk it, otherwise it'll get lumpy. Do you smell the mint?
I do a little bit.
Yeah. When I first made this, all the recipes said a handful of mint, and that's
a lot of mint.
That's a lot of mint. And of course, then it starts cooking, and you're smelling mint for an hour, and you're thinking, it's just going to taste like a chocolate mint or something,
right.
You know?
Right.
How can that be good?
Yeah.
But by the time it all cooks away, you can't even taste them.
Wow.
It's just there.
Wow, that's interesting.
Okay, so that's boiling. And so we're going to lower that down pretty low so that it's more of a simmer than a boil. And then while we're whisking, we're going to start pouring this polenta into there gradually. And it's already starting to smell like cornbread.
Yes.
Okay, no lumps that I can see, so we're going to switch to a wooden spoon and just kind of keep stirring that. I see that spoon had a little bit of tomato on it, so we got that in there now.
A little extra flavor.
Yeah. So that's going to spend a few minutes cooking, about 10 minutes. And you kind of need to keep stirring it. If you could keep stirring that gently.
Sure.
I'll check the recipe. There's got to be some salt goes in there. Oh, I remember now. I've got it measured out here. So this is about a half a teaspoon of salt and the same of pepper. We're just going to dump that in there and incorporate it.
Father Frank knows what job to give me. Stirring is, I think I can handle that.
Don't ruin it.
Don't ruin it. You're stirring it wrong. My God, man. The other way. Clockwise. Clockwise. I'm going to let you take this, Father. I'm going to screw this up here.
Okay.
Is that thickening up?
Yeah, yeah. That's about the consistency you want. Just want to make sure that it's, you don't want to, like any flour or cornmeal or anything, it has a raw taste until you really get it thoroughly cooked.
Yeah.
But I would guess that this is there. So we're going to turn that off. We're going to add 3 final ingredients. And the first one is a tablespoon of butter, which helps anything. And then we're going to add about 1/8 of a cup of sour cream.
What does the sour cream do?
It gives it a little tang, just a richness, This ain't your mama's grits.
Right.
And then the last thing is we're going to put in 1/2 cup of grated Parmesan cheese. And incorporate that. Now we're done. We're going to plate it. See how gooey that is?
Yeah, this looks good.
And, okay, hang on to that. And then get plenty of furniture in it.
Wow.
I'll trade you here.
Okay.
Okay, let's move to the table and eat. Let's bless it. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Bless us, O Lord, in these thy gifts which we're about to receive from thy bounty through Christ our Lord. Amen. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Oh. I think I've invented something.
Oh, I likes. flavor of the broth is really good. Yeah, I mean, I don't taste the mint at all.
No, you don't, do you?
No.
This recipe is very simple in terms of ingredients. It just has 3 ingredients: egg yolks, sugar, and wine. But what's wrong with that, you know? So we're doing 4 egg yolks.
So I got to ask you, man, now where did you learn how to do that?
I learned that from my mother.
Yeah? There's a lot of recipes that just call for just a yolk.
Or just the white.
Or just a white, yeah.
And, you know, like meringue is only the whites.
Okay.
All of your custards, creme brulee, all that stuff is yolks only.
Okay.
So 4 egg yolks and a 1/4 cup of sugar, and we're going to get a hand mixer and beat the heck out of that.
Okay.
So we're combining the egg yolks and the sugar, but we're also looking for that lighter yellow color. Now these are kind of farm fresh eggs, so they're very orange, but you can see how it's getting a little bit more lemony colored. Okay, now bring that bowl. And set it right on that.
Right here?
Yeah. And we're gonna, there's about 1 inch of water in there. This is a double boiler is basically what we're doing here. So that's going to heat up and simmer, and then we'll cook it while we're beating it. And we're gonna add the wine now. And this is traditionally made with marsala, which is a kind of an Italian dessert wine. It's fragrant and a little bit sweet. So we're gonna put a 1/4 cup of that in there. Or is it a 1/2 cup? I think it's a 1/2 cup. I'll do a little bit shy. This will get kind of foamy, and then it'll begin to increase in volume. And it takes about 10 minutes or so because, again, you want to cook the eggs all the way through. I mean, you don't want them raw.
Right. That's why you have to set it on top of the water.
Yeah, right. Otherwise, they would cook too fast. You want eggs to cook real gradually. See how it's kind of increasing in volume?
Yeah.
What you're doing is you're whipping air into it. That's what you do when you whip cream.
Oh.
You're incorporating air into the cream.
That's why it fluffs up.
Yeah. Okay, we're getting close here. Okay, that's what it should look like. Turn the heat off. See what a neat consistency that is?
Oh, yeah. Is that how it's supposed to look, you think?
Yeah, this is it.
Okay.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Let's test it out.
Okay.
That's how it's supposed to taste.
That's great.
Isn't that something?
That's really good. you know, it's kind of a liqueur almost taste to it. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, I saw a recipe not too long ago for Zabaglione, and they replaced the wine with Courvoisier.
Oh, okay.
And
which is a liqueur.
Yeah.
Right.
And I bet that would be great too.
Yes. Man, this is good. Wow. This is the only reason I really hung out with Father Frank was because he was such a good cook.